Good morning. It's a Sunday. Thank you, Jesus, for another day. Let's get into the video. What we're doing today is we're building these living room cabinets, staining, clear coating them for a client. We need to get them done today so we can get them installed tomorrow. We started yesterday doing a whole bunch of stuff for it, the mat, and Carl kind of cut out a whole bunch of stuff. So now I'm putting together the face frame. He's sanding a bunch of stuff for our doors that'll go on this next week at a refacing project. And then we're gonna build these 4 cabinets, stain everything, put everything together, hopefully call it a day. So it's gonna be a little bit of a long day, crazy day. But let's get into the video here and check out and see what happens. I have one of our red oak face frames. This is for an upper cabinet. So this cabinet will sit on top of 2 lower cabinets. And essentially, that part will sit up against the wall. This part will hit up to another identical piece. That's why this is only 3/4. So 3/4 and 3/4 equal 1.5 inches. We did it that way. So that way there's 2 upper cabinets and the shelves aren't 70 inches long where they can bow and bend and warp. It'll be about 35.5 inches long. At 1 inch thick, the shelves will never bow or warp or do anything crazy. So that's how we built. That's why we built that cabinet that way. Next thing I'm doing, and the top is super tall to give it more of a furniture look, and that's the same thing I'm doing here with these lower pieces for this cabinet. We want to give it more of a built-in furniture type look. So I'm gonna go Craig jig our pieces here that we need. Should all be the same size. Yep. I'm gonna take these over to the Craig jig way over there. We don't exactly have this warehouse fully set up yet, so we're using extension cords, but we have stuff to do. We have stuff to get done. So we are going to get it done. There's that right there. Line that up perpendicular. And I have this Craig jig unit set up for 3/4 inch material. I do space it back. See how it's just barely starting to show right there? I don't know if you can see that. That's what you want. I do have it set back past 3/4 a hair because this material is actually 13/16 of an inch thick. Until we sand it down with the vertical belt sander, that'll take it down to the final 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm lining my material up with my line right here. I don't know if you can see that. On these 1.5 inch pieces, that's what I do. So that way you get good spacing for the Craigs on these boards. On the wider pieces, I move them in a little bit. So that way, when you don't have to worry about splitting the end grain. When you screw this piece into the other piece, I've talked about this before, but that's why I use a fine thread screw on the ends and a coarse thread on the inside. Because I like the grip of the coarse thread, but if you use a coarse thread on the ends, like where these Craigs will butt into that end grain right there, it'll blow it out and split it, and then you got problems. So that's why we use 1 fine thread, 1 coarse thread. Leave us a comment if that's what you do, or if you do something different. I always like to learn. Essentially, I'm self-taught, so didn't have anybody to learn from. I just learned myself. These are wider pieces. These are 5.5s, and essentially why I made them 5.5 is because this is the bottom piece for our lowers. So the normal bottom piece would be 1.5 inches wide. Our toe kick's 4. I want to completely cover up the toe kick because, again, it's just easier to in Mosaic and program the CNC. It's just easier to not have to go in there, fiddle with it, delete the toe kick, do some math on it. Just we input it as a 4-inch toe kick, and then I'll build a face frame around it. It's just less of a headache that way. You don't have to fiddle with it and find out that what you fiddled with or what you messed with is wrong. This way we know it works. I've done it a million times. I know it works. I know it looks good. Gonna do it that way again. And then on these boards, since they're wider, I'll show you what I did here. I went an inch in instead of going like maybe a quarter or so. I went an inch in, and I put 3. I want these to be locked in. Just they're wider boards, you know. I want the seam to look really good. I want there to look like there's no seam. Our vertical belt sander does a good job at doing that for us too. Along with the glue, we'll get some color match putty in there just in case there's anything that I don't love. I think I just got a splinter. I did. That is not my favorite, but I really do not like wearing gloves. I should just wear gloves, but I can't stand gloves. I feel like I can't feel what I'm doing. I feel like I'm gonna make a mistake when I wear my gloves. There we go. Rinse and repeat. Those look really good. Perfect. Take these back over there, and we shall start putting them together. Carl's sanding down our center panels to make them a hair thinner, so that way when they're inside of the door, we don't want them to move and shift, but we also want to make sure that there is a little bit of a space around them, not connecting to the 4-piece part, the exterior, so that way the paint cannot bridge and the paint will not crack. Bang energy. All right, let's come over here. We have our left and our right piece. Making sure when we cut these down, we try to make sure both sides obviously look perfect. But then again, I'm double checking because once in a while, one side looks a hair better. And I want that on the front, obviously. You never see the back. Never ever. Get a good amount of glue up in there. You don't want too much glue because it'll come out right here. Then you gotta try to sand that off. It looks terrible. But if you don't put enough glue, your seam can kind of do crazy things. And this is real wood, so your seam can already kind of do crazy things. It's wood on wood, so it's going to expand and contract depending on how you keep your home. One, how you treat your cabinets. That has a lot to do with it. And two, the other thing is how much humidity you keep in your home, the temperature you keep in the home. Where you live at can also make a difference too, right? Based on the humidity and such, so. These are real wood. But I will say this too. The stain and the clear coat, I like a lot. And a lot of our clients like. And I think industry-wide it's becoming popular again over paint, because at least that's what we're seeing. Stain is just, we use a really durable paint. It's not even a paint technically. I just call it a paint because it's easy to understand that. But, and it's super durable. It's the correct stuff for cabinets. Put a hardener in it. It's what you want to use. It's not just trim paint. That's not what you use. That's terrible. And that oven right there cures all of our products out, from the stain to the clear coat to the paint and the primer. That being said, the stain and clear coat hide damage far better than paint ever could. So that's why a lot of people have kind of gone back to stain too. Plus there's stains that look really nice, how you do the wood, quarter sawn, stuff like that. So I really like it. My favorite look is, which we do this decently often, I guess. We actually did this in this kitchen that we made a while back now for this client. The paint and stain combo, where some of the kitchen is painted and some is stained. That is the best look. Like I think they did a gray, but it was almost a white, and then with a darker stain. It looks so good. think it's the best. There we go. Again, line everything up. Let's get these in here if we can. Sometimes this is a pain. Gotta get it lined up really nice. If I can here. There we go. Clamp it. Perfect. And these are just doors. On those upper cabinets right there, it's just gonna be shelving, no doors. But these are the two lower, it's gonna be 2 doors total. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna double check the puttying, double check my measurements, and then build one more upper, build one more lower, get these things sanded, start building the lower cabinets that are right there. There's material in our truck over there. For the upper cabinets I have to hand build, CNC, cut all the lower, because the uppers are staying because there's no doors. So we had to use 3/4, which is fine. It's easier for me to hand build them at this point. 37 and a half, 37 and a half. And then, yeah, we'll start getting all these stained up. In my haste to try to put all the face frames together, those two are fine because they're 37 and a half wide, but they're only 34 and a half tall. Vertical belt sander can fit a 37-inch wide piece. Well, those uppers were 37 and a half by 51. So I had to take them apart, we'll sand them individually, and then we'll put them back together, palm sand everything. Those can be sanded, or those can be stained and clear coated. I'm gonna start putting those lower cabinets together now. Carl's over there sanding down the red oak face frames from 3/4 of an inch, or from 13/16 of an inch thick to 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm gonna start putting together these 1/2 inch lower cabinets. I'm gonna use ample amounts of glue here. A lot of glue and a lot of screws. Use 1.25 inch drywall screws. I switched from countersinking to these drywall screws because I think they actually, it's gonna sound crazy, I think they actually hold, well, I know they hold way better than what I was doing before with the countersink. Didn't like the countersink. I thought it looked terrible. And I didn't think it performed that well. So, said we're done with that. We're doing something else. And a byproduct of that is this is also quicker, more efficient. I like it better. So, that's what we're doing here. But, oh no, don't fall. Sometimes these love to just be an ultra pain. Trying to use a lot of glue here. Get these wedged in here. Something like this, I guess. Right there. Cap. Get it lined up. CNC sort of puts these predetermined holes in for us. And then that's going to be too low, I think. I don't like this table setup that we have. I'm just going to be honest about it. I really actually hate it. A lot. But that's what I have today. Don't have time to change it. So I'm not going to. I'm going to just get it done. That's the difference between being successful or not, and you just get it done. That's what we're doing here. Want to make sure the screws are flush or recessed, preferably recessed to hair. 32nd, but flush would also be fine. These cabinets do not have side panels, they go wall to wall. But obviously in a kitchen, a lot of the cabinets will have side panels. And if your screw's sticking out, you'll pop a side panel. That looks good in there. Okay. Let's put more glue on this piece and see what we can make happen. There we go. Perfect. Love that. Build this up. Okay. That looks really nice. Grab our screws, the dado, the glue, and the 1 1/4" screw. Hold these cabinets together really nicely. There we go. Flush on top. FOT. Like the Perkins Builder Brothers say. FOT. It's one of the channels I watch. Learn some tips and tricks from them. Another channel I watch, Victory Outdoor Services. That's a really good channel too. Like to meet those guys someday. Probably will never happen, but maybe it will. These cabinets are also insanely deep. They're gonna end up being like 29 1/4, the cabinet themselves. And then once you add doors and such, they'll end up being about 30. No, the cabinet is 29 1/2 deep. Once the doors go on and everything, it'll be 30 1/2 deep. And then the wall is 31 deep, but I wanted to have a little bit of play. The walls are never plumb. And I'd rather it be recessed in just a hair than sticking out. Sticking out would be no good. This side looks better. I think this is just dust. It is. It'll come right off. Okay, perfect. Craig these in. I always go 2 1/2 to the side on these because I don't want to screw into our Craig jig on the back side of the face frame. I like putting a lot of Craig jigs in just because the screws, along with the dado and the glue, they all play their own important part in holding everything. So if I can put a lot of each, that's what I'm going to do. Like these to survive a tornado if possible. I mean, they wouldn't, obviously, but I'd like them to. Like them to be super sturdy. Okay. Now these may be a pain. Sometimes on really wide stuff. Things like to bow. Get our hammer out. Yeah. There's just so much play in this table. I cannot stand it. But I'm gonna get this side in so I stop fighting myself. There we go. Where's the next screw at? You can kind of feel it right there. Again, the CNC kind of predetermines the holes for us, which is lovely. Okay, let's fight here. There we go. It's going down. I can tell it is. Just don't know if it'll go. There we go. It went in. Power of the Milwaukee. Stuff is built to last. The best. Like that right there, that's where the CNC has determined where the hole should be to hit the center of the dado. Perfect. Love that. Just gotta screw it in straight, which sometimes, nah, even if you screw it in straight, sometimes the plies or the grain of the plywood, they like to be a little bit tricky. So you just got to be careful. Popping through the inside is not an option. Get this back all screwed in here. 1/4" scribes on the back in case we need to scribe these cabinets to the wall, which does happen periodically or quite frequently because walls are never plumb. This is a big cabinet. Look at that thing. It's like a boat. Literally a boat. Okay. Now, next step. These cabinets are identical too, so that makes it a little bit easy. These are extra sleeper boards to help hold the boards down. Don't need them. So, see what we got going on here. Okay, so these are those 4. These wider boards are a toe kick on this cabinet. And then 2 of these are for the back, no Craig jig. 2 of them are for the front, Craig jig, to attach to the face frame. Just like that, bingo. And another one. Truck's in here, kind of in the way, and by kind of, I mean definitely in the way, but that's okay. Normally we pick up material in the vans, but we were busy on Friday, so the truck picked it up. Just happens to be in our way, and I have the wrong type of nails. It's annoying. Let's go back over here to our corner. Spray booth is in there. Things labeled, brad nails. Let's get rid of these 5/8. Don't need them no more. Give me a rack, 1 1/4 inch. 5/8 would technically work and would be the safer option, but 1 1/4 inch is gonna hold way better. 5/8 are safer because if you're not perfectly straight, you're not gonna pop through. I always do that just to make sure we're clear. So one time I've only had it happen one time, but one time I didn't fully clear it and needed a 5/8. It shot 1 1/4 inch and I had to restart. So now I learned my lesson and I do that. There we go. Fill that all up with glue. Now we need one of these pieces with the no Craig. Technically you could screw this, I've talked about this before, but these 1/2 inch, it likes to pop the plies because the top isn't enclosed in a dado. So I simply brad nail it. Hate on it if you want, but this works the best for us. I just put a bunch. And we've never had any issues, especially if you have the, well, it's very important not to shoot the brads too deep so they don't blow through the material, but super sturdy, love that. Also need to make sure you fill it up with glue. There we go. These boards don't really provide any support anyway, quite honestly, they don't. They're there to help square up the cabinet. Actually, why they're there, as you can see, the top is a little open right now until we get this squared up. The counter pushes all of its weight down into the sides of the cabinet. It's not pushing it onto these boards. So again, not really there for structure. I'm going to just shove a little bit more glue in this little crack right here, just to make sure. But it's not really there for support. It's there for squaring of the cabinet and to attach the face frame to the front. Okay. So that cabinet should be 37.5 minus a half, 37. How deep is it again? 29.5. So yep, should be correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. 1/8 inch dado. Good. 34.5. Yep. I'll need to drill out the shelf holes here. Actually, the shelf holes are already drilled. Love that. That is effort. Okay. That's done. Time to build the next one. Carl and I are sanding down these lower face frames with 150 grit sandpaper. You don't want to sand them with really anything more than that because you don't want to close the pores off, so you'll get uneven stain distribution and it'll look blotchy, even on oak. So we're just sanding these down with 150 grit. He's going to start staining and clear coating these. I am going to measure for the doors really quickly before that. And then I'll measure for the shelves inside of those two cabinets. And then way over there by the vertical belt sander, I'll start putting, oh, that is so dusty. That didn't help. I will start putting together those upper cabinets, sand those down, he can stain those, and I'll start building the shelves for those uppers. So I have these two face frames in the configuration they're going to be. 1.5 inch wide on the left, the right, the left and the right, like that. 1.5 inch on the tops. Then I have 5.5 on the bottom. So what I did to find my height was I measured the rough opening, 27.5. I went up 1 inch to leave a 1/2 inch gap, and I went down 1.5 inches, which would be standard because the 4 inch, it's 5.5, but 4 inches of it are toe kick. But I didn't put toe kick on these because I want these to look like furniture. They're in a living room built in. So my height of the doors was 30, as you can see right there. And then what I did is this is up against the wall, that's up against the wall. It's tight. Normally I would leave a 1/2 inch. So I would have a 1 inch hinge because it's 1.5 minus a half gives me 1 inch. Same thing over here. When it's tight into a wall like this, I hedge a bet in case we have to scribe the sides. Anything less than 1 inch on our hinge or a 1/2 inch gap on our hinges, the door can hit, or the restrictor won't restrict the door enough and the handle can hit. Don't love that. So I left 3/4 of an inch gap just to hedge a bet to be safe. Worst case, it just fits in there. It's perfect. There's a 3/4 of an inch gap. It'll be fine. So I have 1.5 inches minus 3/4 gap, 3/4 inch hinge. In the middle here, I can go 1.25 inches to leave a quarter, and then this way I can go 1.25 inches to leave a quarter. Quarter and quarter together is our 1/2 inch gap. And then same thing over here, 3/4. So 3/4 left there, 1 1/4 right, 1 1/4 left, 3/4 right. The circles are the restrictor. Restrictor, restrictor up against walls. So all I did is I measured my rough opening, added 3/4 hinge, added 1 1/4 hinge, subtracted 1/8 in the middle for an 1/8 inch gap between the doors, divided by 2, boom, 18 3/16. As you can see, I made a mistake, you can sort of tell. I wrote 16 3/16 first, no good. It's 18 3/16. That's why I double check. So the other way I do it too is I measure the whole face frame, I subtract, so I subtract 1/4, subtract 3/4, subtract 1/8. That's how I caught myself. Always double check. And then down here at the bottom, normal bores. Normal 3.5 up, 3.5 bottom. Easy, done. Carl went and got more stain and clear coat at, we get our stuff from Sherwin-Williams, great company. So before he comes back, I'm going to get, where are they at? Right over there in a pile, not in shambles, but kind of in shambles. I just have to put them back together. Stain those, or not stain those, sand those with the palm sander. And then those do not have doors. Those are open. So the whole inside has to get stained, which is fine. I'm going to put those together, sand those down. That way he can start staining the 4 face frames. While those are in the oven, he's going to start building the 4 doors. I'm going to, once I'm done with those face frames, I'm going to cut these 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 shelves, 8 pieces because we're going to double them up, make them 1 inch thick. Do need to drill more shelf holes. That's fine though. There's some right there, but I need them up top as well. Do that, and then I'm going to start building the 2 extra cabinets. And these had to be 3/4 of an inch because they are red oak plywood, 3/4 of an inch, not finished. We do have to stain and clear coat the insides of those. So, that being said, gonna be busy. We are making progress. Currently building our inch thick shelving. It's really 7/8 of an inch thick. They call these 1/2 inch material, but it's really 7/16. 7/16 times 2, 7/8. Getting a good amount of glue on there. Now all this material is clear coated both sides, so is the glue really going to make a difference? I don't know, but putting it on there just in case. Line this up. Brad nail it. Yep, feels good. And then I'll do some color match putty on it. So that way you never see the brads. But to me, it's worth it. To make sure that these shelves are super thick and never bow, warp, or bend. So it's the thickness of the material right there. Reason why we probably could, I don't know if our supplier has it. It might, but the nails pretty much disappear right there. Reason why we don't just get inch thick is because that would be the only thing we would get inch thick material for. So it's kind of a waste, quite honestly. It doesn't take that much longer just to do it this way. And we can just bulk order this material and do it this way. So the 3/4 we get is unfinished, and I don't want to have to clear coat all of the shelves. This material comes UV'd clear coated, so we do it this way. We get super thick shelves, and our edge banding will slide right across it and be perfect. So I'm gonna let these shelves sit up here a minute. Then I'll edge band them. Not gonna use that today again. It's 2 shelves. There'll be more for the uppers, but it's not that many shelves. So I'm not gonna let that heat up. I'm gonna kind of organize my area here really quick. And then I'm gonna start edge banding these. Do the math for those 2 upper cabinets I have to build by hand. Cut those out so they can get stained. And then put together. I got my extra upper shelf holes all drilled for 2 shelves in each. Shelves done. I'm gonna do the math for those 3/4 inch stained cabinets. Cut those all down, get those stained, and then the other face frames might be ready so I can start datoing those. Start completing those cabinets. We also have to build the doors really quickly here. Carl has the parts cut down. They're concave style, so we need to change out the shaper bits, get those shaped up, cut out the center panels, and keep rolling here. Cutting down this 3/4 inch plywood that's red oak into the parts, back, sides. We'll stain this, I'll put it together, I'll measure for the very top part. Doesn't need a bottom because it's gonna be sitting on a red oak stained bench. That's gonna go on top of the lowers. So I need to cut out 2 more sides for this cabinet, get them stained up. Carl's over there, he's over there right now, but he's been working on those face frames for those 2 cabinets. When those are done, I'll put those on. Then I'll start working on the doors while he's working on these cabinets. So cut 2 more of these, he can start staining and clear coating these cabinet pieces. Just got all my holes drilled for all of the pieces, for all of the shelves. I'm had to mark my top and my bottom because they're Craig jigged on the back side. So there is an orientation to the bottom and the top because these pieces aren't sized correctly for even spacing on the Craig shelf hole jig. They're 51 inches tall. The math just doesn't work out for them to be even. So they're about an inch more gap on the bottom, which is fine. I'd rather have the gap be bigger on the bottom because people are more likely to put taller things on the bottom. But I just had to orient, I don't know. Just had to make sure I labeled so that way I knew which side was the bottom, so that way I could start on the bottom and drill these correctly so all of the shelves will line up on the spacing equally and they'll work on the pegs. So now these can all get blown off, stained, clear coated. I'm gonna go start building doors And then, what else? Maybe start putting on those lower face frames. And boom! Center panels for the doors are cut. Copes and sticks are done. Doors can pretty much go together now. Panel, or shelves for the upper cabinets, cut. They need edge banded, stained, clear coated. Lower cabinets, completed. Shelves, double checked. Those are done. I'm gonna cut the top piece for those cabinets. I'm gonna overcut it a little bit. That way tomorrow, once they install those, we can double check our measurements and I can cut it down a little bit more if need be. Use this material right here, same material the uppers are. I'm going to cut out that top and then I'll edge band those shelves. Get the shelves completed so they can be stained. These are how the uppers are coming out. This is the first upper, number 1. Stain. Once it's clear coated with 3 coats, I'll put it together. Same thing for the second one. We'll just keep belting. Over here, corner cabinets for a project. Built this yesterday. Usually the CNC cuts it, but I just hand built it. That's how that all works out there. 45, 45. Needs to be 12, 24, 24, 12, 17. This is for another cabinet for another project. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but that's completed. Gonna get this completed. Keep going here. Just have to screw that face frame in. That cabinet's completed. It's all stained, clear coated, no doors. Same thing here. There'll be 3 shelves in the middle. Nice wide top, matching the nice wide bottom on the lower cabinet. Doors there. That's why it's not stained on the inside. Same thing there. Everything is glued, screwed, dadoed in. Looks super awesome. That's building custom cabinets on Mother's Day. If you enjoyed the video, give us a like, subscribe, comment. Check out our website. We do full kitchen remodels. See you tomorrow, which is Monday. Adios.